Hey everybody, Sujan Patel here. I got Adam J. This is the Shake Sales video interview. Adam J is the founder of Revenue Reimagined, fractional sales. You're doing a whole lot of advising, helping companies scale their sales teams. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. We are I hate the word agency, but I can't think of another word to use. Maybe you could help me with that. But we are a full cycle go-to-market agency helping founders transition from founder-led sales, encompassing marketing, sales, success, RevOps as a service, and recruiting as well.
Love it, love it. Great time to do this as like folks have kind of not always quite ready to like build out and invest $1 million to their whole team and get the whole thing going, or they need to like reduce cost and they still need the work to be done, right? Just maybe not like three people. I don't think agency is a bad thing. I think that bad agencies give the word agency a bad rap, right? Like I, you know, I built multiple businesses leveraging outside help, and
Yeah.
frankly, like some of the agencies I find to be better than like when I build out the team and I'm like, oh shit, like why did I do anything? So yeah. All right, well let's jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's jump in. Let's jump in. So what I want to talk to you about today, and you've done this a bunch of times, I think like your valuable insight on this is, transitioning from founder-led sales to building out a sales team, right? So first and foremost, like what does that look like? When do you know you're ready, and what does that transition look like as a founder?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of founders will come to us and they'll say, hey, I hit like 500K in ARR, or I hit 1 million in ARR, or whatever that number is. And like, we're ready to hire a sales team. And oftentimes that couldn't be further from the truth. So what we do is spend a lot of time digging into your existing customers and understanding, where did those customers come from, for one? Were they all from your founder network? Were they from referrals of your network, or were they from referrals of people who are actually using the product? Really wanting to understand that. And then we'll dig into what's daily active users looking like? What's monthly active users looking like? What's time to value? What we find is oftentimes with early stage startups, founders get a lot of initial traction because, number one, no one can sell better than a founder. I've yet to find a sales rep that can. Even the founders who don't think they can sell better than any rep, because you have that passion. It's your baby. You built it. So they have that initial success, which they see. Then once they start having that success, what they find is through their network, they're getting more business. And it almost gives you this false illusion of success, because these are your friends. These are your network. Some of them have sweetheart deals. A lot of times pricing could be a little bit different and nothing standardized. And what we will often uncover is your first 10, 20, 30, 50 customers don't look anything like one another. They're all paying different things. They're all different types of businesses. I was talking to a founder the other day who's like, we have 20 customers. Our ACV is super high. We're ready to hire a sales team. When we dug in and we started asking about those 20 customers, 10 of them were friends who were all, on the lower end of the ACV. And they had 2 customers that were actually paying a good amount of money. So I asked, we'll call him Bob, I asked Bob, like, which of these are what you want your customers to look like? Well, the 2 paying the higher ACV, of course.
Yeah.
Well, why aren't we selling more of those? Well, we can't figure it out. Like, we don't know why the message isn't resonating. So what Bob needs isn't to go hire a sales team, because he's going to hire AEs. They're going to come in and have the exact same problems. We have to build the foundation of understanding what's the ICP, what's the buyer persona, what's the proper messaging, and more important in today's market than it ever has been before, what are the real business problems that make this product a must-have versus a nice-to-have? The days of a nice-to-have, cool, shiny product that someone is just going to buy, in my opinion, are long gone.
Yeah, there's too much software, and there's too many good tools doing it, or an existing software that you already have might do that, right? And so like, how do you differentiate yourself? So what I heard was 2 very big things. One is really product market fit / like understanding the who is your buyer to the T, and you're building that out for them based off of like a bunch of deals and stuff. And a lot of times it's like, got to build it up. And number two is the value proposition, right? Like it, just because you could sell doesn't mean you understand the value proposition. So I feel you on that. Very painfully relearn that in the last 2 years as we decided to move up market. And I was like, no, I know who we're selling to. It's this person, and that was a vague answer. I was speaking to the ex CMO of Salesforce. It's like I got an intro to her, and she's going to give us feedback, and like I was just such an idiot when I asked her questions. Like I was like, here's a customer, here's a persona, and she's like, yeah, but who? I'm like, no, this is the person. I'm like, but why are you a must-have? And like it was just like,
Yeah.
I could have just done the homework myself, right? And she gave me a whole lot of information,
but
it was like,
it's hard. A lot of founders aren't sales founders; they're tech founders. So when you start talking about value prop, what they consider a value prop from a tech perspective certainly is a value prop, but you have to translate that into sales and marketing language that it is resonating with those that you're selling to, that it's a value prop to them much more than what I, as a founder might see as the value prop. And oftentimes what we find is what founders will say is why people are buying the product. When you actually interview customers that have purchased and customers that haven't purchased, that's not why they may or may not buy the product. That's a feature that you offer, but that's not the core reason why I might buy Mailshake.
Yeah, it's a solution. You've yet to define the problem, right?
100%.
And so let's fast forward. So you figure that out for folks. When do you start? Okay, when do you start hiring folks like SDRs, AES? When do you start building the sales team?
Yeah. So for me, it's not as cut and dry as a revenue target. I like to use milestones, such as when we see X number of repeatable customers that are coming in, that the message is resonating, that we're seeing the same price resonate, and that we're starting to see a like-minded group of people saying, this is something that makes sense. That value amount depends on what your ACV is, what the bandwidth is of both you as a founder for selling, us as fractional leadership who's coming in to help you sell. And when we start seeing that repeatability, that's when I believe we bring in SDRs and or AEs. I have a unique perspective on SDRs, and some people are going to love this. Some people are going to hate it. That's okay. Unless you are truly selling to enterprise, where you have long, complex sales cycles with an awful lot of stakeholders and decision makers, I don't believe the SDR model makes sense. I am all in on full cycle AEs who own the pipeline from the very beginning through the very end.
I completely agree. I think the SDR AE fix model is something from the 90s and early 2000s when buying software was difficult and it required procurement. In even small companies just needed extra handholding. I just got pinged by like we Airbnb our home in Austin.
The one you actually live in.
Well, we no longer live in that house. We just now it's just a full-time Airbnb. So we're interviewing a bunch of like companies to property management companies, and there's a couple like tech companies, like funded companies that like do this service. And man, like I was like, I want to give you money. Like I just want this answer. And I had to go through like a 5-day over the weekend wait for somebody to give me basic information. And I'm like, what you just did could have been automated. And like I got on the call with the person, an SDR, to like qualify me. And I'm like, if you just gave me the deal if you just gave the AE and made them the full cycle, they could have validated and closed me within one call. Now you took too long. I shopped around. I figured I can do this myself. I'm cheap, so I was going to do it myself anyways. I was shopping around, but like it was just like 5 to 7 days before I got any valuable information, and they just gave me a cookie cutter thing. So anyways, long story short, yeah, full cycle. I'm all in on that.
It's creating friction. The problem you have, and I'm working through this with a client right now, and they're a little unique. They're actually totally out of my ICP, if I'm going to be honest. They're a $50 million privately held company that's trying to expand in the US. Their average tickets, they're very much land and expand, right? So they'll start with, it could be as low as a couple $100 and working to go up. And they're like, we need to hire SDRs. If I have to talk to an SDR to make a $250 purchase, who's just going to qualify me and then tell me I have to go talk to an 8, like That is such a waste of time, and the unit economics do not make sense. The first thing I tell all my customers when we're hiring sales teams and building out sales process, be easy to do business with. Because if you're not, there's someone else that is. And I will give you all a shameless plug, and I won't mention the competitor, but one of the main reasons that we've moved some of our clients to Mailshake is you're easy to do business. I get customer service. And if I email someone, I get a response. No matter what your business line is, especially when you're a startup, be easy to do business with and respond to your customers.
It's very simple to say, maybe hard to do, especially if you're a big company, but like it's
Sure.
really not that difficult, right? Like I think instead of my point of view is instead of looking at what how you should build your company, think about how the buyer wants to buy. If there is no friction needed, don't add the friction. And I think a lot of people times like they just like, what should I do? I should build this model and blah blah blah. They overcomplicate it when like full
It,
cycle
you,
sales rep. If yeah, easy.
you hit the nail on the head. We're redoing our website right now. It's what I was doing before my conversation with you. And one of the part that I'm on is literally about how we have to align everything to the buyer's journey. What I want or my sales process doesn't matter. And one of the things that I say to founders and revenue leaders alike when we're building out sales process, if I ask the customer where they are in their buying process, it should very closely map to whatever stage they're in Salesforce. We don't need 74 stages in Salesforce. If we're negotiating, they're in negotiating. If we're in discovery
Yeah,
and they're learning about it, we're in discovery. Don't overcomplicate this. Your sales process has to mimic the buyers.
exactly. And this is I'll give an example, a concrete example of how we're what you described us as good is bad for another ICP of ours. So we've got a lot of consultants, agencies, like folks that are helping their clients or somebody else on behalf of someone else doing sales. That's like probably one third of our business. Another one third of our business is like small and growing sales teams. We lost all those deals because they were used to buying through a sales journey, like a process, whether it's right or wrong. We're like, you know what? Let's just remove the friction completely. Like, just go buy it, right? Like, and we did it like we were like monthly pricing for a while, so it was like $60 a month. So when somebody that buyer came to us, like a sales manager, director of sales, they're like, oh no, $60, that's too cheap. I don't want to buy this myself. I need help. I need somebody to talk to and blah blah blah. Like we need to
Hmm.
make this process more complicated. So like my opinion is, and then that was when we decided to move up market and blah blah blah. But like we added like a inbound sales team, and we got one third more deals, and we were just able to close larger deals because we asked a question like, "Hey, where are you trying to get to? Why don't you just commit to that right now?" And they're like, "Okay," or we just added we our competitors are Sales Loft, Outreach. There's like 100 of them in the space, but the larger ones they have a process, and the
Oh
larger
yeah, they
companies
do.
are used to a process. We didn't have a process; it was just like buy. And simple thing we did, and it's really funny. Like we now have I don't know what a contract, some sort of
Sure.
agreement, some sort of agreement. It is our terms of use copied and pasted from our terms of use page
That you're
onto a
calling a contract.
proposal,
Sure.
and it literally the pricing is literally almost verbatim of what's on our sign up flow that they have to sign, and then when they click on the payment, it goes to the same like on the back end, it's the same funnel. It's just on a PDF
Okay.
versus the sign up flow. And that unlocked like I think like at least 10 to 20 deals a month that just wanted that. So we were just
But
not hitting that.
this is what a lot of founders don't do, though. They don't experiment and they don't understand that as you're building your foundation, again, it has to be the buyer's process. One of the things that we preach a lot is a lot of iteration, a lot of experimentation. If something works, we're going to double down and triple down on it. And if it doesn't, we're going to abandon it really fast. Think of it as your A/B testing in your sequence, right? We try
Yeah,
to see which one works. We need to do that in our process as well. Because like you said, sometimes it's that little change, and it is a little change. You're doing the exact same thing. You're just making them sign something because that's what they want and that's what they're used to. Fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned that I want to touch on is that from going from founder led sales to building out a sales process, you're almost taking one or two steps back and getting to the foundation or the root of what's happening when they hire someone like yourself, even if they don't hire you per se, they hire a VP of
Sure.
sales. They're going to have to do the same freaking thing. They're just going to pay a lot more for it, and a lot more time unnecessary, right?
You're giving me heartburn with the hiring a VP of sales. Listen, I'm a recovering VP of sales, recovering CRO. I did it for 15 years. And what brought me into my line of work is seeing and having been on the end of being hired, being sold to like I'm an investor, being told everything's great. And I come in and nothing is built out. I haven't been set up for success. We don't know who our ICP is. We don't know who our buyer persona is. We don't know what our messaging is. And we sure as hell don't know what our value prop is. But I was told that, hey, we're a great startup, right? Everything's amazing. And I've done it so many times that I made it my mission, so to speak, that number one, to help founders extend their runway and dilute their, and protect their dilution. And number two, make sure that when that VP gets hired, most VPs aren't builders. They're scalers. It's very different to build versus scale. So when that VP gets hired, that foundation is laid so that you don't hire a VP, waste $400K a year by however many months they're there. You've increased your burn and that VP has accomplished absolutely nothing because they haven't been set up for success.
I love it. So speaking of like VP of sales, so where does that go? So you like got that one step back, building the foundation, you got the messaging, you got the pain points, you kind of hired some or like built out some full sales cycle sales reps.
Yep.
When do you actually hire the management side of things, right?
Yeah. To me, it's the management side, the VP or the director is typically when we have 4 to 6 AEs that are humming, that are hitting the quotas that we've built out collectively that map to the op plan plus the buffer. And we see that our message is starting to resonate. And now all the work that we've done to build the sales team is starting to flow. And now we need to scale it. Now you as the founder need to step away and work on the business instead of in the business. We need to step away in a reduced capacity because you don't need to pay us what you're paying us to build everything. We will help you find that VP. It's part of our value prop that we offer. But now we bring in this VP of sales to now continue to scale the thing. So it's that 4 to 6 range of AEs with 80%-ish hitting quota lets us know that we're in the right direction.
I love it. And you said a very important part that I want to like end with really is most VPs and CROs, they're scalers, not builders. Yep. You can't give a VP a blank slate and say, give me the sales process. They can make it better.
Yeah.
You've done, I mean, looking at LinkedIn, you've done VP CRO 7X and you're now a builder. But that didn't happen the second or third time, right? Like, it took a while to get there.
It took almost all 7 times. And I'm fortunate, right? I'm a builder because I was put in the situation that I'm trying to prevent VPs from going into. But I failed as well, right? Like I've been put in situations where I was told everything's great and I'm like, holy shit, like I don't know how to build this. And I learned. It's very different. It's arguably why I tell folks when you're hiring for that VP of sales, if you're a Series A startup, you don't want the Salesforce VP. Like they're used to a bunch of help, a bunch of process, a bunch of, systems and tools. You need someone who is excelled at your stage and maybe the next stage. There is a certain personality out there that will tell you that you'll outgrow your VP of sales and eventually you'll need to hire someone new. I would push back on that. I think it's a lot easier for a VP to learn and grow and scale with the company versus having someone who has worked big and suddenly have to come back. Is it different to run a $100 million company than a $10 million company? Absolutely. There's a reason I don't work with $100 million companies. It's not my skill set. But I've also never spent the time trying to grow into that. Every VP who's running a $100 million company started somewhere.
Love it. Makes sense. Yeah, you're going to put a 1,000 horsepower engine in a Mazda Miata, and you're like, why am I not going anywhere? It's not going to go anywhere. So, Adam, thanks so much for your time. Where can people go to learn more? And effectively, like, where can people go to hire you? Because, like, honestly, I wish I could have hired you guys like 5 years ago, and like,
I love it.
A lot less painful to get to here.
I love it. LinkedIn's the number one place. There are multiple Adam J's, so it's /Adam B as in boy, JAY. And we are launching the all new revenue-reimagined.com. That is the best place to find us.
Love it. Go check it out, and don't make the same mistakes a lot of founders do, and go hire a team to help you get to the building your process when you're a founder.